Hey everyone, you're watching Creep Cinema, and I am your host, fashion designer Mark Tauriello. Thank you so much for watching. This episode, I decided to do one of my favorite movies of all time, possibly even my favorite movie of all time. And what movie is that? It's Carnival of Souls from 1962. So I've been wanting to review this movie for so long. And the reason why I've been putting it off is because I have so much to say about this movie. So much about why it's so great and why I love it so much and the different layers and everything behind it. I've read reviews, I've watched reviews, and there's a lot of great ones that are out there. But I also see some where I wish that they talked about other topics about this movie. So I'm going to tackle that. So the premise of the movie is about a young woman, and her name is Mary Henry, and she is a organist for a profession. And at the start of the movie, within the first 5 minutes, her and her girlfriends are in a car, and they decide to drag race with a group of guys on this bridge, and they drive off the bridge going 10 miles an hour, and they plummet into the water, and they die. Only an hour later, not an hour in the movie, but like an hour later, Mary Henry emerges from the water, and she's the sole survivor of this accident, and everyone is mystified. So moving forward, she decides, you know what? I'm leaving. I'm moving away, and I'm closing this chapter of my life. I gotta move on. So she decides to take up a job as a church organist for a small church in Salt Lake City, Utah. And that's where her life or her story kind of evolves and gets weird. So during her travels, she starts to see this creepy ghoul-like guy who is on the back of the box, and he's basically following her around throughout the entire movie. Fun fact, the ghoul is played by the director of the movie. His name is Herc Harvey, and he is freaking awesome, and that's because this is actually his first and only movie he's ever made. Before Carnival of Souls, Herc Harvey was a film director for like industrial films or educational films. So this was his first, time doing like a movie. And he did it like on a really, really tight budget. Like I think it was $30,000, which even in like 1962, that wasn't a lot of money. And I really believe that when you are a creator, whether you're a filmmaker, a designer, an artist, a musician, whatever, okay? When you are a creative person and you are really working on a tight budget, and you have to use like all your resources that are available to you, I really think that is when you're going to make the best quality of work you will ever make in your life. Because when you're forced to think creatively like that and innovatively and, figure out how to make things work with what you have, you reach this other level of creativity that, I think transcends the boundaries of time and space. And I think Herc Harvey does a wonderful job of that, given his resources to film Carnival of Souls. So, moving back to the actual plot, so I don't confuse you guys. So, Mary Henry is like seeing this guy, like everywhere she goes. And there's even like periods of time where she like is out and about interacting with the world, and then no one sees or hears her, and she's like all alone. And there's one scene where she's like buying a dress from a saleswoman in a department store, and she says to her, "I'll take the dress," and the woman doesn't acknowledge her. It's as if she doesn't exist. And there's a few scenes like that. So she kind of goes in and out of reality, where she is seen and then not seen, and it's like obviously like making her distressed. And at the end of the movie, you find out that she died in a car accident. And basically, her body was in the water the whole time. It's just that she was a ghost. And these ghouls were kind of like ghostly like figures trying to bring her back into the world of the dead. So that's the gist of the movie. What's more important to talk about, though, is the carnival and pavilion. When she drives to Salt Lake City, she sees this abandoned carnival that's just sitting out there on the lake by itself. And she has this, like, she's just drawn to it, you know? She has this, like, small obsession for it, and she kind of like shines with it, kind of like what Jack did in the hotel at The Shining. Like, she kind of had those sorts of feelings, and something about that old derelict pavilion was calling her. And I think the shots of the carnival are so beautiful, and they're so eerie and haunting, and it being a black and white film, it really, really works in this film's favor. You know, I have passed many places that look similar, and I think we've all seen places like that we've always been drawn to and wanted to see and look into for ourselves, but can't, you know. And I think this movie does a good job playing on that. Talking about black and white, I loved the makeup of the different ghoul-like people that she was haunted by, because it was very simple. All they had was just, you know, white makeup with black dark eyes and maybe black lipstick, and it's so minimal, but it's very impactful, and it works. You know, it worked on the tight budget that they had in putting this movie together, and it works so well in black and white. I know later on they did colorize this movie. I've never seen it in color. I have no desire to, and I will probably never see it in color, because it's going to completely water down the atmosphere and the vibe and the look of this movie, and you just won't have that much of an appreciation. And I don't think you would be able to get sucked into the universe as deeply. In regards to the art direction too, and like the different elements like that, the music for this is really cool. It's all churchy, like pipe organ music or calliope. It makes sense. I mean, she's a church organist, and that's her job. And then there's the carnival, and it's just so eerie, and it sounds very like ghostly, and it sounds like funeral music. And I know for a fact it just plays so well with the movie that it works. So I mean, this film is just loaded with atmosphere. Another common theme with this was Mary Henry's disconnect with people. And I love that so much about her character. She's depicted as a very socially awkward, cold, very independent woman. And I love the fact that a woman is depicted that way, because in the 60s, they didn't really depict women like that. So I think she's just a super empowered character, and, you know, she doesn't need anyone. And in the film, it's a very common concept, you know, that she doesn't need anyone. When she leaves her first job in the beginning of the movie to move to Salt Lake City, they're like, "Oh, Mary Henry, come back and visit." And she goes, "Thanks, but I'm never coming back." Like, that was literally her response. There's even dialogue about her needing to basically have more soul with playing music, you know, because she looks at music as nothing more than a source of income. And it's kind of ironic, because she is a church organist, and her job is to basically create music for the church to, like, invoke or, you know, stir up everyone's soul, you know, and she doesn't really have one, and she's dead, you know. So I like the play on that. And then I also like the fact, too, that she has this male, I forgot his name, I'm having a brain fart, but there's a man in the movie, and he's attracted to her, and he's pursuing her, and she really does not, she just has no desire to even be with the man, and she even says it, you know. And I just love that about her character, because it's just, I like people that are cold and heartless sometimes. And other than that, the other thing I wanted to talk about were the ghouls, because a lot of times when I read reviews, people are like, well, they don't really talk about these ghouls that haunt her. Like, no one, there's nothing in the film saying, like, who they are, how they died, where they came from, what their motive was. You know, it's all kind of just inferred. So, from my own opinion, I think that the ghouls that are haunting her are all people that died in water. Whether they died in the Salt Lake, or whether they died in the river that she was in the car accident with. I know the river does go into that lake. So I think that everyone that is haunting her, they died in water. And her being someone that was in an automobile accident where the car went off the bridge, and now she's a ghost and doesn't know she's dead. I think she obviously attracted them because she belonged with them. With the carnival being derelict, I think that those ghosts were attracted to it because it too is a remnant of something that was once alive, and now it's dead, abandoned, sitting there on the lake. So they haunted it. They were ghosts haunting this carnival. Her being a ghost and dead, I think she sensed some sort of presence at the pavilion, and that's why she was drawn to it. It's as if she knew she belonged there, but she didn't really know in what way did she belong there. And her being a organist that plays music, I think that was her calling as well, because the carnival, they always have someone playing a calliope or that organ music that you hear, and I think that they wanted to collect her or take her into their world so she could play music for them. I mean, there's even that scene at the end of the movie where she explores the carnival one last time, and she goes into the ballroom or the dance hall, and all the ghouls are dancing to eerie, droney, like organ music, and then right after they kill her. So I think that her calling was not necessarily when she was alive. I think her calling was in death. So while she was alive and playing music, she felt so disconnected to it. She felt disconnected to the church. She felt disconnected to people. She felt disconnected to her own calling of playing music. But I think in death is where she will find her meaning and her place in the world as a ghost. So, I mean, I know it's a little abstract, but this is how my brain reads things. Maybe I'm a little too, out there and think too much about it. But that's what I feel. And that's one of the reasons why I love this movie so much, because of how macabre it is and dark, but also it's very beautiful at the same time. So that's what I have to say about Carnival of Souls. It's the easiest movie to watch. You can literally watch it on YouTube, because I think now it's public domain. So you can watch it on YouTube. If you go to Best Buy or any of those places and you get one of those 20 horror movies for $5, I can guarantee you Carnival of Souls is going to be in that. Or you can get the Criterion Collection, which is a little more expensive, but for people like me that are obsessed, go for the Criterion Collection. There's 2 discs. There's all these cool features. There's a documentary about the movie. They show you the 1989 reunion of all the cast and people that put together Carnival of Souls. And there is an entire documentary about the pavilion and the history of the carnival that they filmed it at. So I don't know, if you like all that stuff, invest in the Criterion Collection. Plus it has subtitles, so if you have shitty hearing like me, you can read it and understand it better. Okay, so I'm going to give this movie my rating from 1 to 10. It's a 10 out of 10. This movie is perfect. I wouldn't change a damn thing about this movie. So yeah, if you're watching this, I can guarantee you've probably seen this already, because people that watch horror movie blogs and reviews watch horror movies. So comment below. I would love to hear your thoughts or your own theories about the ghouls or the characters, what you have to say about the movie. I will always respond. And that's that. So thank you so much for watching Creep Cinema. I'm Mark Tauriello, and this was about Carnival of Souls. And I will see you some other time. Bye, everyone.